Good afternoon and welcome to the second of the Season 2's Pro Landscaper Online Summits. Season 1, we focused on helping the sector navigate its way through the turbulent times caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now we turn our attention to getting the landscaping sector back to earth safely, legally, efficiently, and I guess most importantly, profitably. The session we're focused on winning work, and I guess more importantly, winning the right sort of work that suits your company. We have I've been speaking to quite a few landscapers and designers recently, and there's been an influx of inquiries, which sounds absolutely fantastic, but is it? Is it the right type of inquiries? Is it from the right people? Is it going to be the profitable ones? And how do you know the ones it's worth you spending time and effort in chasing, following through, or should you just let them go? We've got a question facilities on here, so we've got some questions already set in, but if you want to use the question bar, please feel free to do so. And we'll try and get through as many questions as we possibly can as we proceed through this webinar. I'm really pleased to say we've got fantastic panelists this time. We've got them from different parts of the UK. I think it's the most widespread panelists we've ever had in terms of geographical. We've got from different size companies, and we've got from different disciplines within the landscaping sector. We've got Tessa Johnstone, who is the director of Johnston's Landscapes Limited and a Barley board member. We've got Mark Youde, who runs and owns Urban Landscape Design. We've got Tony Benger, who owns Tony Benger Landscaping from down in the southwest. We've got Sean Butler, who's the owner of Cube 1994 Limited. And we've got Julian Ransom, the owner of the Fourth Corner Limited. So a wide experience and different types of people. Before we kick off, I'm just going to ask the panelists just to do a very, very short introduction, just a little bit about their company, about the sort of business that they're involved in and the size of it, just to give everyone a feel of what the company is. We've got, I think it's about 140 odd people signed in today, so I hope everyone enjoys it. I hope if you've got any burning questions, please feel free to post them and we'll try and get through them. If we can't, then we'll see if we can get back to you at the end. But if I can start off with Sean, then just a quick introduction, Sean, in terms of your business and how long you've been around.
Yeah, my name's Sean from Cube, 1994. Been established since 1994. We used to do a lot of commercial work, and then as we matured, we dropped that and we purely concentrate on high-end domestic projects throughout Essex and Hertfordshire.
Lovely. Tess?
Hi there, Jim. Hi. So we are a small medium-sized business based in Wiltshire. We tend to work across Wiltshire and Gloucestershire. Got a fairly small team. Business has been running really for the last 30 years, and I joined my husband to run it 6 years ago, where we've moved it from where it was just domestic private projects to undertaking a lot more commercial infrastructure projects. And he tends to run the private side and I look at the commercial side of the business.
Excellent. Tony?
Hi, yes, we've been going 35 years, 75 employees, 60-40 for domestic commercial. I don't really mind which is, we make a conscious effort to be both. We do quite a lot of commercial maintenance nowadays, which is sort of easy work and quite a lot of work, and it's easy to manage, so that's partly why we're doing more maintenance. Looking for high-end domestic stuff. One of the questions later on will be about finding the right type of work, so we'll talk about that later, and that is proving more difficult as you turning down work is more difficult than doing work sometimes.
Yeah. Julian?
Hi Jim, Julian Ransom, Director of Fourth Corner Landscaping. We've been doing what we've been doing since about 2013, so 7 or 8 years. We mainly focus on grounds maintenance and soft landscaping, and the soft landscaping has grown out of the grounds maintenance side of the business. Got about 30 employees, and we've expanded quite a lot in the past few months. The business is sort of going from strength to strength. Picking the right sort of work for the future is a challenge for us.
Yeah. And finally, Mark.
Yeah, Urban Landscape Design, Cheshire-based design and build company. We've probably been going about 18 years, 15 to 18 years. There's about 30, 32 of us, varies slightly sometimes in the business. We are probably 60% domestic, 40% commercial. We try and be high-end domestic, but we're also quite selective on our commercial work that we do. We don't do your standard commercial. We try and work with quality architects and landscape architects that we've been networking with for about probably 5 years now to bring that type of business in. So that's
perfect. So the first question I've got for you all, then one by one, is in terms of, did you decide where your business naturally falls, i.e. top-end domestic or grounds maintenance or soft landscaping, or did the company, I guess, morph into that kind of position that suits you? So, and also with that, is it the area of the business that you really want to be in, and is that because it's a passion for you? It's where you believe that you can make more profit, or where it actually suits what your business is? So if we start with Tony.
Yeah, hi. We started off with small domestic stuff because I started off as a one-man band, and we always did domestic, and then we slowly morphed into commercial, and then we do quite a lot of house builder now. Identifying the jobs you want to do is you need to identify which are giving you best margins, and if you can identify that, you can then concentrate on the stuff that you end up doing better with.
I always wonder whether funny enough, you fall into a position and then you learn how to make the profit, or you've decided that's where you want to be, and you then work out how you do it. I think, it's quite interesting. Tess, we talk about your business.
Yeah, so we, Andrew started it 30 years ago, probably just by putting a couple of hanging plants up in London. So something very, very different. And then what he quickly got involved with was learning and loving plants, really. So he is driven from the aesthetic point of view, which is why he loves domestic projects. Some of those projects over the past 15 years probably haven't seen us a very good profit whatsoever. The team have thoroughly enjoyed working on them, but we haven't really worked the percentage we'd wanted to. And I think where I got involved 6 years ago, we've ended up doing a commercial project. Is that kickback from me I can hear? Or?
I can't hear it, so I think...
Okay, maybe it's just me. And I actually enjoy working more on the commercial projects, which we tend to manage to find a slightly better, or at least more consistent margin. And actually for us, it doesn't matter if we're doing a £250,000 private project somewhere or a much smaller £25,000 project. We try and keep that margin, at the same level, which has always been our challenge. But the team genuinely like doing both things. If I was to tell them they had to work for housing associations for the next 6 weeks in a row, they wouldn't be so happy. They like moving from project to project.
Okay. Mark?
Is that it? Am I muted now, Jim?
Yeah, I'm here. Well done. Only one so far.
Yeah, I don't do technology, mate, very well. Again, like many of the others, I started on my own, just me in a van, and then it was me and another guy. And I learned very, very quickly from a comment that my dad once made to me, honestly, that always aim as high as you possibly can, because when you aim for the higher end of the market, if monetary issues ever come into it, they're never quite as well affected as the people in the middle end of the market. So straight away, within a year of starting business, I always set my goal to be really, really high and just aim for the high end market and then try to build towards that. We don't always do that. We vary our jobs. They can vary in price from 20 grand. The biggest job we've done to date is 1.6 million for a private client. So it all depends, but we try and aim for the high end. We're geared up for the high end, doing prestigious work now, and we do the same with the commercial side as well if we can.
Okay, Sean?
Well, when I originally started, myself and my cousin, I employed him. We just were doing domestic projects, and then about 2 years into the business, around about 96, I tendered for and successfully won a local commercial build landscape project, and we then started to win a lot more commercial projects, doing countryside properties, Bellway Homes, Persimmon, Wilson, etc., etc. But then I found that you're getting into a Dutch auction. You're talking about creeping pennies off here and pennies off there. And I got bored with the mentality of the surveyors and QSs at those various companies. And I decided to keep it more controlled onto the domestic market. And it's more interesting, I find, although we do still do some selective commercial projects, but only when we are the only person tendering for them. I'm not worried about having to tender against multiple contractors. I prefer if the architect has selected us based on our bona fide quality of work that we do, and that we just we put a fair price in and we come out with a fair profit.
Okay, Julian?
I'm off mute. So yeah, we started, I came from a construction background. We started looking for some soft landscapers to come in and do some work for us. And we just found the whole process a bit overcomplicated and expensive, actually. So we undertook the work ourselves. That was kind of our entry into the market. But then we went off on a tangent and picked up grounds maintenance work, where we found really the quality of the work and the customer service from a lot of companies out there was pretty diabolical. And so we managed to set up a consistent way of performing and delivering a service. And really we've just gone on from there based on the fact that customer service is the most important thing that we can back everything up with. And that's the main thing we work to. And then we've grown grounds maintenance just based on reputation. And then several years ago, back into the soft landscaping, working primarily for house builders and developers. And again, we found straightforward, good communication, great customer service, and we began to expand that business pretty quickly. And then going forward, we just want to keep pushing on with both elements of the business. They seem to work quite well for us. Okay,
good. So one of the questions coming in is just as we go through, could people just say whether they offer a design facility as well? And as you're talking on that, in terms of selecting staff now then, so when you're selecting staff, are you trying to fit them into the ethos of what your company is and where you work? Or are you trying to find somebody that's got some kind of either plant knowledge or landscape knowledge and then sort of train them and develop them in the way that you want your business to be reflected in the market? Mark, so design and then the other two questions.
Staff-wise, I'll start with that one, Jim. Staff-wise, if we're looking for staff, yes, it's helpful if they've got a little bit of landscaping experience, whether that's soft landscaping or hard landscaping. It doesn't always have to fit though, because I tend to look for something in somebody and then try and develop that within them. And then obviously, because we've got the academy now, it allows us to then start to train in-house and develop them from there. And a lot of it for me comes down to, I don't know, just something about them, a little bit of passion in them when they're sat at the other side of the table, when we're interviewing them. And we tend to pick on those type people more so than probably somebody that comes with all the so-called skill set. Because I've had people that come with the best CVs in the world. Once they actually get out to site, one of my team members will probably pull them apart in 10 minutes. Because unless you check the CVs, a lot of it can actually just be written and it's not quite as exactly as it should be. So we tend to find people with a little bit and then obviously train in-house and develop them from there.
Just for that, Mark, what I'm sort of trying to get to, so if you're, I don't know, doing that middle market or you're doing grounds maintenance or you're doing top end, do you think the same person can do all that, or do you think you need to select the right people to do the bits where you're focusing your business?
This is a conversation I regularly have with my commercial development manager, Glenn. He's been in this industry, I don't know, 25, 30 years. And when he first started and he left school and he went to horticultural college, they were rounded, so they did everything. But nowadays, what we're finding is a lot of my hard landscaping teams don't want to do the soft landscaping side. And my soft landscapers don't really want to do the hard landscaping. Where Glenn's argument is they should be rounded and be capable of doing it all. I sort of understand that, but I find with the hard landscapers, if I keep them hard landscaping, I can train them to be perfectionists in what they do, or 90% of them to be detailers and finishers. So we tend to keep the hard and soft landscaping teams apart and train them in different ways. So we know that then when they do that part of the job, they're fully skilled and hopefully can give the detail and the quality that's required. So we tend to keep ours slightly separate, if I'm honest.
And you do offer a design facility as well, don't you?
We do, yeah. We in-house design. Obviously, Holly, my wife and my other co-director, she originally designed. She tends not to do much design now. We have our own full-time designer, Lucy, but we do work for a lot of independent designers that design only as well. And we've been working really hard over the last 5 years networking to bring a good influx of those designers on. Because when we're busy with our designer, we actually pass them it back as well. If we're snowed under and there's a market for a design, we will then select one of the other designers that we think meets the client's needs and just pass it on to the designer.
Excellent. Tess, in terms of design and the staffing?
So staffing, pretty similar to Mark in the sense that I used to, when I had CVs come in, I would, see whether they had some skills, etc. But actually I've gone backwards a little bit and just said, no, actually I want guys in who are pretty fresh and don't know very much, but I want their values and behaviours to be aligned with our values and behaviours. And the team that we have, they are happy working in enormous, big, beautiful gardens, and we're working on a fairly small project quite locally, and they love working there as well. But it's that values and behaviours thing that works for us. So I would say, thankfully, touch wood, I've only had to release about 2 people in the last 6 years I've been here, and they were both team members who had a lot of experience, but they couldn't really buy into what we were trying to do. And I couldn't find that flexibility with them. So I'm happier having newer people. I love getting an apprentice every year. That apprentice always comes with a different sort of skill set, and they learn their skill set going on. So staff-wise, I'm happy with, out that knowledge, but as they come in with us, I'm really happy to support them if they want to do some sort of RHS qualification or, a day release or something like that. Design-wise, we don't have a dedicated in-house designer. We do utilise the services of somebody who sits externally to the company, and we don't tend to use them so much for planting plans because I've got 2 team members. Well, one is Andrew, and then I've got one other senior team member who really specialises in plants and loves plants, and they tend to do planting plans. So we'll do planting plans in-house, but the design element we will put out. But where most of our work comes from really are the relationships that we have with designers. So we tend to, a lot of big designers will use us and they know us and they repeat use us, which is great.
Excellent. Tony?
Yeah, I agree with Mark. We tend to keep our hard landscapers together doing projects, and they don't do very much house builder, turfing or maintenance. So our teams are sort of fairly separate nowadays. They don't mind doing a little bit one for the other, but we keep them separate. Recruiting wise, hard landscapers are quite difficult to find that have a passion for gardening. They have a passion for concrete blocks, but they don't have a passion for plants. And if you can find one, we found one just recently who came from Oxfordshire, and he wanted to relocate down here, and he really enjoys plants, but he's a hard landscaper. So we've been lucky with him.
Excellent. Julian?
Yeah, design-wise, we don't do any internal design at all. So for all our soft landscaping projects, the designs come in, plans come in, and then we work from those. All our staff have come to us and have been trained through us, either internally or we sent them off for external training, and we do the apprenticeship route, and we feel that for our long-term plan gives us really the best route forward, because our best example is an apprentice who joined us sort of near the beginning 7 years ago. He now runs our soft landscaping business. He's learning and growing probably at the same pace as we are as a business. He's now come to us and he's being offered show home work, and he wants to go off and learn to do some design work. So we'll probably help facilitate that. But generally speaking, I'll go with what Tessa said. It's about the individual that sits in front of you Are they keen? Are they motivated? Do they have the same values? And can we progress them and give them opportunity? And if we can do that, then everyone wins.
Excellent. Sean, last comment on this one.
Yeah, we design and build. I actually design myself, but I've also got an in-house designer, Beth, who comes from a fine art background. So the two of us, me mentoring her, because she's only young, recently graduated, turn out all the designs. We average about 2.2 designs each per week, and that doesn't vary at all in the whole year. Just keeps steady, and we've got steady input of work. Obviously, we've got fluctuations of when we're really super busy, which we are at the moment, with approximately 15 new inquiries a week. But on the build side, I'm very selective on the process in which I actually interview people. It starts with a telephone interview, and then it progresses from that to a CV, asking them to send a CV in, and depends on how they're able to actually put that together. And then we get them in for a face-to-face interview, because we like to see their mannerism, how well they come across, etc. And then we're not particularly bothered if they've got a vast amount of skills, as long as their heart and passion seems to come across, that they really want to be working in this environment. And I don't want somebody who's just doing it for the sake of a job, because we're passionate about what we want to do and achieve, and the quality of the work that we're trying to achieve on every project. So therefore, we want people to be able to come on that bus and get along that ride with us, making sure we deliver top-end gardens. And we do with the academy. We've also got an academy which was started 18 months ago, and we train up staff at any level. But we're almost slightly different. We don't keep hard and soft landscapers separate. We actually mix the teams so that we've got different skill sets within each team, and each of those teams stay as a team. Sometimes we cross members over from different teams, but each team will have somebody skilled in paving, somebody who's learning the new skill of paving, people that are interested in planting. Maybe then we might have a bespoke joinery, carpenter, stress, multi-skilled type person with that team also.
Okay. So the question is, going back to what, picking up on something that Sean said about the number of inquiries. So at the moment, everyone slowly getting back to work. I guess majority of people in the landscaping sector are there. Is the focus on finishing off the jobs that you were doing pre the pandemic? And with all the inquiries coming in, how do you select the ones that you want to spend some time and effort? And how much detail do you do with the inquiries and go into the inquiries before you decide to move it on? And there was a question that just came in for a couple of people that said that they now outsource design. Is there a reason for that? So if I think it was Tessa and Julian maybe, and that outsource it. But the important thing is, where's your effort at the moment? Is it fulfilling the projects that were started before COVID? And with those inquiries and the influx of inquiries, I think someone said to me the other day that they were doing 7 a day. And I was thinking, how the hell can you do 7 a day? You can't be sifting through and making sure that they all fit the model of your business. So I just wondered how you deal with that. Mark, we'll start with you. And you're quite strict on your time and effort for inquiries.
Yeah, I think we're the same as most. Like Sean just said, when they sort of eased the lockdown slightly and allowed us to have a little bit more freedom, the phones went into absolute meltdown, if I'm honest. But we try and quantify a lot of our work before we even go out to look at it. We have a system of questions that we'd ask the client. Obviously, normally that would be done over the phone or via an email, but because of the circumstances at the moment, we do site visits, but we're trying to limit those site visits. So we now are getting the clients to actually send us an email with all their thoughts on their garden, what they want, approximate sizes of the gardens, and we're asking them to actually try and give us as much information as we can. And then what we're doing very quickly is we're just very quickly going back to them and giving them estimated costs for paving, estimated costs for planting, etc. And we've quickly worked out that it gets rid of a lot of dreamers. Because unfortunately right now there are a lot of dreamers around because they've been stuck in their garden in beautiful weather for 3 months solid and actually realise the value of a beautiful garden and a beautiful space. But unfortunately I've been watching the really bad TV programmes. I'm not mentioning them, but I've been watching those type programmes and thinking they can get everything done for £3,000 as such, and unfortunately they can't. And that's where we've been trying to eliminate them. And it sounds a bit harsh, but honestly, it's cut the process right down. And then the ones that then fulfil the information and bring it back and then understand costings, once we've got to that stage, we're then prepared to maybe go out and have an appointment and go and do an actual visit to the garden. And it's something that we learned quite quickly a few years ago. And it's something I mentioned the other week in one of the APL seminars that I did. We bought a business consultant in about 3 years ago. And when he came in, he asked us how harsh he wanted us to be in our business. And I said I wanted him to be truthful. And he came back with figures. In that particular year, we had quoted nearly £7 million worth of work. But the percentage of the win rate was absolutely really poor, to the point of where we were just running around like headless chickens and pricing everything for no reason, when now we quantify a lot of the work. So we're actually physically just concentrating the ones that are serious, that have serious budgets and seriously understand the skill set and understand the cost that goes with that.
And Mark, just very quick on that. So when do you start charging?
At the moment, funny enough, we don't charge for any sort of initial consultation, but myself and Holly have had a conversation this morning actually about that. And because obviously we do a lot with the APL, as you know, because Holly's vice chair. So we've been doing a lot of webinars with members of the APL, and it's becoming more and more apparent now that a lot of people are actually now starting to charge for the initial consultations. And a lot of people are now actually finding it that people aren't questioning it. The ones that are serious are happy to pay for your time for the consultation. They're not charging hundreds or thousands, they're charging anywhere between 50 and about £100 for a consultation, which they find, and again, that gets rid of a lot of the dreamers. And the people that are paying it are serious to pay it because they're seriously interested potentially in having your services or a decent landscaper come designer services to do the garden. So it's something we're actually having a meeting about next week with the rest of our management team about now starting to charge.
Okay, Sean, same question in terms of like where you're spending your efforts and focus, and how do you sift your inquiries?
Well, on our website, we openly have a minimum limit for which is basically covering our design fees. Not that we charge it every time, but we have a minimum project value of £15,000, and that's on our website, and that automatically stops anybody wasting our time at the very low end. What we do find, we were wondering whether to actually raise that up, because our actual average project value that we do is around £70,000 anyway. But by having that in place, it means that people understand that you're dealing with somebody who's not prepared to go out on a basic patio project or something simple like that. We do charge for consultations based on distance, and we filter our clients by sending the initial email reply inquiry, setting out all the terms and everything else. That very specifically tells them this is what you're going to be in for and any minimum spends. Then if they're happy with that, they come back to us, and then we set up a consultation where I go out and do a site visit. From that visit, we do a very, very detailed brief. And at that detailed brief, then we repeat it by email back to them so that they totally understood what they've actually said to us. And if they have anything to add to it, which quite often they do after that meeting, because it sort of sends them off in a different tangent of thinking. And then we base all that information plus a survey, etc., on what we design to the build. But at that consultation, we do give approximations of costs, and it's a way of sussing them out if they're really serious or not. But by that time, we find that 9 out of 10 of our clients are already serious by the time we go around the house.
There's a question just come in, Sean, while you're there, asking in terms of, because there is definitely a lack of knowledge in terms of the consumer and how much things are worth. But would you give them a rough cost per square metre per garden, or would you? Is there anything along those sort of ideas where they could work out quite
There is.
quickly?
I actually, because when I was vice chair of the SUD, there was a lot about this for designers, and I suggested to many, particularly city designers, because the average footprint of a garden is pretty similar. And it also is, there's a local development here, which we're on I think it's our 29th project, and all gardens are in excess of 40,000 on small builds. And you can quickly work out a pro rata rate of what is your average rate across every single garden. And city gardens can tend to be around about the £900 to £1,500 per square metre mark, depending on what level of end finish they want. So a few key questions at the beginning, you can guide them towards the 900, or if they're really wanting outdoor kitchens and lighting and everything else, there'd be £1,500 to £2,500 square metre. But based on your own client base, it's very easy to actually go back over a period of a year, and you can see the square footage that you've been covering, or meterage, and then just do an average, and you'll be quite surprised they're all within about £100 per square metre.
Okay, so Tess, would come to you then on terms of filtering the inquiries.
Well, I feel like we're sort of being a bit bad, and we sound like we're constantly trying to get rid of our clients, don't we? But what the other chaps say is completely true. You end up with this process of elimination. Otherwise, you end up with this sort of hobbyists who, for whatever reason, get overexcited, as all of us do, about having people in to perhaps, I don't know, cost for a kitchen or something else. But you just can't spend your life going out and costing items. It's impossible. So we will charge from that first consultation, but on site. So I'm very happy. We'll do a phone call consultation. I won't make it very long. And I'm pretty blatant about saying, what sort of spend you have in mind. And if they really don't want to talk about it, I will use that kitchen analogy again, which is, well, if you were having a new kitchen in your house, what sort of, have you got an idea of your spend there? Because people always seem to have an idea internally of what they want to spend, but never externally. And, again, we probably end up with, it's really sort of 1 out of 7 inquiries are the ones that do want you to go around. They're happy to pay the £100. I do refund that £100, and I make it obvious in our invoices. But otherwise, you just spend your life visiting things and not really achieving anything.
Okay, Tony, I guess some of it's slightly different for you in terms of the commercial aspects as well, on how you sift the inquiries.
Yeah, we're particularly bad, I think, at sifting our customers. But you end up also pricing up lots of little jobs, but they're usually friends of friends, and it just goes on. Many years ago, I said we only work for clients with a Coutts bank account, or their address is the old vicarage. They're very good ones to work for. We don't do many city gardens, and we aren't able to do what Sean does, which I would love to do what Sean does. For domestic jobs, we find it very, very difficult because we have such a variety of gardens, and if they've got 1.5 acres of garden, sometimes they just want wildflower meadows, sometimes they want 10 acres of wildflowers, and other times they're tiny, small gardens. So it's incredibly varied. I find it very hard. And sometimes I had a customer walk into the office one day, and we said, how big's your garden? And they said reasonable size, and I was carrying on talking to them, and I said, how big's your garden? And they said, well, it's a reasonable size. And when I pressed them for the 3rd time later on in the conversation, it was 235 acres. That turned out to be quite a good job, actually. Commercial wise, we're not very, we try and skim down that. We get thousands of commercial tenders over our desks, and we do have to sift those out. If we haven't worked for them before, they might go to the bottom of the heap, and if they're a long way away, we don't go to them. But other than that, we tend to look at them quite carefully and sift through them. We try not to go for the big house builders that are only interested in numbers. We're more interested in the quality builds that will build up a better clientele.
Okay, and Julian, then the last one on that, I guess graduation is completely different.
Yeah, it is really. So we get a lot of, so all our inquiries are really commercial. In the early days, we did try and offer a domestic service, but that was a total nightmare. Lots of small quotes, lots of running around, lots of feeling busy and not really generating any growth for the business. So, you know, we do some soft landscaping through designers, but that comes to us and you know, we'll compete with other providers for that. We'll only do that fairly locally. So we judge on distance. And then for the grounds maintenance and for the soft landscaping, really, we try and understand who's going to value our service. And by understanding who's going to really see the service that we offer and something they're prepared to pay for, then we'll try and target those customers. We found in the past years, we've had plenty of people we work for that don't really care if we're particularly great at customer service, don't particularly care that everyone's trained up really well, and so they don't pay us particularly well. So we really target much better who is customer focused and really wants to pay for a great service. And by focusing on that, we've gone from a situation of just quoting for anything and everything to now being a lot more focused. So fewer quotes going out, but they're of a better quality, and they're ones we're more likely to win. And then we do tenders as well. So you know, the whole tender process is a different thing altogether and is highly competitive. But again, we found where we bide our times on tender contracts, especially cyclical maintenance, we can come in sometimes behind someone who didn't do it very well last time. And then we can demonstrate the value that we add, and hopefully we get paid for it.
Perfect. So we're going to move on to the second stage in a minute, which is all about how to go and find that type of work. I just wanted a very quick answer from all of you in terms of, do you think your company's brand reflects where you want to position your company in the market? So Tess, we'll start with you on that one.
Hi, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to sort of perhaps join in somebody's question that was on the question and answer, because I sort of feel perhaps we're all sitting here rather, I don't use the word smugly lightly, but we're all sort of sounding a bit like we have these wonderful jobs that come in and they're very high end. But, you know, marketing, you need to decide what it is you want to do and what you're good at. So, you know, if I want to work for high end housing companies, I tend to try and go and talk to them, and I tend to network with those kind of companies. Architects, I will network with those sorts of people. And you know, of course you don't get yeses from everybody, but somebody will give you a chance at some point, and somebody will let you through the door. And as long as your quality is there, they will ask you again, you know, and you don't have to. I mean, we had one inquiry come in straight after we came out of immediate lockdown, and it was somebody wanting their front border, you know, redone, and it would have been about £800 worth of work. I'm not dismissing that because there's somebody out there that needs to do that job, but in my head I was considering it because I was in that initial panic. And then I suddenly thought, why am I doing that? That's not my market area. That is somebody else's market area. You know, I need to stick with what it is I know and what we're good at doing. What was your initial question? I was worrying more about.
So that was where that you just answered the next question. But this question, in terms of where you're trying to position your company, is your branding, is your marketing all linked to that kind of the client base you want to attract?
So for us, I mean, I'll be really obvious. We don't do that much marketing. I've put one advert in a magazine last year, which was the wrong decision. Shouldn't have done that. But things like House and Garden, which is very, very high end, we're part of the list for that. And I think a lot of the high end designers have picked us up from the list. And I don't most of our marketing really now is almost word of mouth. But I would only, we aim for what it is we want to do. It's not that these things just land on your lap. It's been years of hard work, really. I don't know. What does everyone else think? Somebody else?
So we now merge those two questions into one. Does your company reflect, your marketing and your branding reflect where you want to be? And how do you go and find that type of work you want? So let's go with you, Mark.
Yeah, as I said earlier on, Jim, I've always tried to aim high. It just because it's a challenge to get there, and I like a challenge, and I'm very passionate about what we do. You've been to the offices in our showroom, you and Lisa, so you know where we're coming from with this. Yeah. I think for us, we do all sorts of work, but we always aim really high. And I developed a brand for the business very, very quickly, because when I initially started, I come from a different background with family. We always had a high brand for the family business at the time. And I found very quickly when I first initially started in this industry, it wasn't it didn't seem to be very professional in its representation. It was just guys in vans going around looking really not very professional, if I'm honest. And there is a market for that, probably, not where we want to be. But so I worked really quickly that maybe putting a brand on it and making yourself look more professional and higher end brought the higher end clientele to you. And as said before by Tessa, we don't advertise at all. Ours is all word of mouth now, and just a lot of networking that we've done over the last 2 or 3 years with all the corporate events that we run here with other designers. And that's now starting to pay off for us very much so, with landscape architects and independent designers and developers that we brought to our corporate events. So I think for me, aiming high was the best way forward. It was a challenge to get there, but it was a challenge that we sort of reveled in and worked hard towards getting to.
Okay, Sean, branding, and how do you find the work that you need?
Branding, I've always been keen on branding, right from the shirts that my staff wear to our offices and our location. We've actually, from a branding office point of view, we've actually got an open studio gallery where people can just walk in. It's just like a bit like a front of a estate agent, where you can see all the photos of different projects and stuff like that through the window, and then you can come inside and you can see all our awards and all that sort of stuff. And then basically we renew our website about every 3 years. We'll refresh it, just because technology moves so fast, and you do have to have a web presence. I'd like to say we get everything by word of mouth, but we don't. I'd be lying if I said that. We get an awful lot from local little bubble areas where there's Facebook groups, and they spread the gospel of Cube around the place, which I love. And I'll I'll go around there and say thank you in person to the people that have recommended us, and I'll give them a bottle of champagne or something, just because they've made the effort without me prompting them, and said, go with Cube because they're really great, and I appreciate that sort of thing. So,
yeah, Julian.
Brands. We think it's really important. Right from the induction, when we get our new staff in, we're always talking about the brand and the image. And we work really hard on that, but we do it all pretty much do it all ourselves. So it's challenging with a relatively small office-based team to be able to do that. I think it's key. We talk about brand a lot, but my wife does a lot of the branding. She wants us to have all uniform coloured vans, all the same, and with all the branding on. And then I go and muck it up by going and buying the wrong coloured van, because that's the only one that's available. So we have a multicoloured fleet, but that's entirely my fault. But I haven't figured out yet how to order something far enough ahead to get exactly the right colour you want. But I guess probably in 5 years' time, I might get there.
Tony?
Yeah, branding is incredibly important. You're only as good as your last job. So one of our sayings is, all you have to do is do a good job. The trucks have got to look smart, and that's inevitably a difficult job, because we're dealing with a messy type of business, dealing with mud up to your ears, as this winter was. It's very difficult to keep smart, keep clean. But it's a continuous effort of trying to look tidy and look professional. We are lucky in that my parents have got a 30-acre garden open to the public, so we get quite a lot of referrals through that. They see what we've done and they say, oh, could you do our garden? my sister is our in-house designer, and she's got quite a good reputation. So most of it is word of mouth. But like Sean said, your website, you need to refresh all the time, find better ways of making it work for you. Just a continuous effort, that's all it is.
I guess this question is maybe for Mark and Tony very quickly. Tony, while you're on there, big investment for you in a fantastic new building. Is that as for the staff to work in that type of environment, or is that going to help you in terms of bringing clients in to see you and understand your business a bit better?
It wasn't really built for clients, although it is good to have somewhere you can welcome somebody in. We're actually hanging pictures today in our sort of boardroom. We just outgrew our previous space, and we were lucky enough to get a European grant for help with the building. So that really, it was right next door. So we've moved on to a 14-acre sort of purpose-built landscaping yard, which is what you dream of when you start with a borrowed wheelbarrow and a mini.
Mark, you put a lot of time and effort into making your place look fantastic.
Yeah, as Sean said, obviously you've been here, Jim, and so's Lisa. So yeah, the best thing we ever did was actually move out of a home office and actually get okay, we rent our premises at the moment, but it was the best thing we ever did because it enables us then to grow confidence in the client, because we always encourage our clients to come to our working office, our show area. We obviously do the corporate events. We'll have events obviously previous to now with the situation, but we've had events where we've had 70, 80 people here. We've got a fully functional outdoor kitchen, as you know. So we will do corporate events. We bring Michelin star chefs in to cook for them. And it's just a really good networking opportunity for us. But the minute we bring a private client to this particular place, then it seems to seal the deal. The client then really stops potentially looking anywhere else, even whether that's with an independent designer or our own client. I've had clients walk in this office with a 40k budget as such, and the time they've sat down around the table, looked at all the samples and talked to it, we've gone away with a 60, 70,000 pound signed contract. Recently, we had a client come in, independent designer, designed the job. The developer was going to do the work, a high-end developer. We got involved because of our connection with London Stone. Now we're actually installing all the paving, but we refused to install the paving on a fixed price because it was too complicated. We gave him a day rate plus materials at 10%, and he snapped my hand off because he'd been here and seen the quality of what we're offered to offer.
That's good. There's a question that's come in that I think it's worth just quickly flicking through for answer. In terms of a lot of talk about there's going to be this bounce back that might last maybe a couple of months, maybe a year, but then the recession or us paying for the last 3 months will affect the market some way. Does that worry you in terms of where you'll position yourselves, and do you think you'll be looking to do more quotes with different people just to make sure you have the work later on? Tony, let's start with you.
Yeah, we've had a lot of inquiries recently, a lot of domestic inquiries, and we're, like we were saying earlier, sifting through them is quite difficult, and quantifying them is quite difficult. But you just have to keep on checking what you can do. It's not an easy thing to do, is to quantify the amount of inquiries through, and we have had a lot of inquiries.
Have you got a fear, Tony, that 12 months' time those inquiries are all going to dry up and it's going to be, maybe back to 2008?
Depends how the recession goes. I think the domestic inquiries will feed through to the rest of the year, and then if the commercial world does go down, I think the domestic people will tighten their belts. But hopefully at the same time, the commercial will start going forward. But I read a report today that the housing market is looking very buoyant in the southwest, so who knows?
Okay. I don't know if anyone else wants to come in on that in terms of the fear for 12 months' time.
Well, sure. I've ridden out 2 recessions we've been going nearly 27 years now. I didn't see a dip in either of those 2 recessions in 2008 and also in the mid to late 90s. I'm a firm believer that people who've got money will always have money. I think we're lucky from a point of view where a lot of our clients, they all come from financial sector or have their own businesses. They tend to be my client base. And, you know, whilst I love bankers getting the city bonuses. A lot of people moan about bankers, but I love them because they're my clients. And we can't do without them. So I feel that whilst there may be a slight dip, I believe, and I'm confident that my type of clients will still be there for me to carry on with. We've got, you know, a massive deficit in the housing market, and I believe that the government's going to do everything they can do to keep pushing that market and delivering on the numbers. And whilst they're doing that, we're going to still have more clients moving into new builds which need their gardens doing.
Just on that new build, there was another question about house builders. Their reputation is they're quite money tight and penny pinching, and it's not about quality. It's about just make it look good until I sold the house, or we sold the house, or we've moved off the housing estate. Does anyone want to come back on that? Maybe again, Tony, in terms of, do you find that with a lot of the house builders?
We try not to. We do inevitably do some of the lower end house market, but we try and say top end, and most of those clients appreciate good landscaping and they're continuously working for us. If you work for the lower end of the market, you sometimes just race to the bottom, and it's just hard work and depressing. So we try not to. We do end up doing a lot of quotes, but we don't win very many of them.
I'm really conscious of time, actually, so and I want to get on to this question. So moving on now, in terms of, it's all good, you build your relationships, you do your quote, you've got your profit margins built in. How often do you go back and look to make sure that you are delivering those profits and your figures are correct and your pricing is correct, and you delivered what you think you are? Tess, what about you in terms of how do you look back?
So if you'd asked me when I first started this, I didn't really understand the numbers at all. I didn't care about it. I actually invested in a business coach a year ago, who I won't name check on here, but anyone can ask me if they want to. And actually the thing that they got me to really sit down and concentrate on was numbers, and to understand what it was we needed to make in order to get all the guys out on the road in a van doing the stuff that they do. We were very fortunate about 3 years ago that we had a really large commercial project that came in that put some good money in the bank, which we didn't have before. And therefore that has totally changed what we've been able to do, because we've got that money there and it's been wonderful. I'm not saying it will be there forever, but it's enabled us to invest more in the team and deliver more. But I look at numbers, not every day because that's just crazy. I will look at the numbers quarterly, really, really in big detail. And obviously monthly when I'm doing my invoices and stuff like that, I want to know that I've captured everything, I've got everything, and I know exactly what's going on. Because if you let that slip, and as one of the questions was about house builders, it is quite easy for house builders to behave a little bit like large supermarket brands, and they think you want them more than they want you. Actually, sometimes I think you have to be a bit tough with them, and if you've got a good enough relationship, make sure you get your money, if not in 30 days, but within 60 days. And if it starts dragging on beyond that, start to work out whether that's really the kind of person or the kind of client you want to work with. Okay.
Julian? Also, actually, just another question we'll answer on the way through there. It's just, does anyone invest in a client management relationship system, and how do they use that as part of the same question we can?
Going back to profitability and tracking the numbers, I think we got a management consultant in about 2 or 3 years ago who just went through everything that we were doing, and it just meant that we came out of it with a really proper process for evaluating cost and time. So now that we track all the time, is all done through apps on the guys' phones, feeds into our accountancy software, so we can pretty much check certainly on a weekly basis, how the numbers are looking, and which can either be good or bad depending on how the project's going. But we found that's been really helpful in analysing whilst a job's going on, and then when the job's been finished, being able to look back over the mistakes we've made, because inevitably, we'll make some mistakes, where we can improve next time, and how we will change any rates that we need to take into any circumstances that have caught us out. So we found that that's been essential to being able to grow, is being able to understand the numbers, review them regularly, and have systems in place where a lot of it can be done automatically for us. Well, I don't know what was your other question?
So in terms of a client management system, in terms of recording and how you interact with your clients.
Yeah, I haven't found the perfect solution for that. Actually, we've got a number of different systems, and we're looking to see how we can bolt them together. So we do have software we use for the accountancy, software for time capture. They talk to each other, but we haven't, because we don't actually have that many customers, because we're commercially based. We've probably got 50 customers, and that's quite easy for us to track at the moment. But going forward, we'll definitely need something.
Okay, sure.
We use Google Drive to operate all of our policies and systems on there. I do a cost management review with my leadership team weekly. We just do a summary check, that's all it is. And then monthly, I go in more detail using spreadsheets and stuff like that. Annually, my suppliers, I'm always making sure, because there's always this minimum increase, normally between 3 and 5% on anything that's cement-based products and wood, and we always pass that on to our pricing structure, because a little percent here and a little percent there, and I know some people have said before they will quite happy to absorb those costs. Well, I think margins are tight enough as it is without having to absorb another 3 or 5% from various different suppliers. And we're lucky in the fact that we've got a lot of buying power, and I have several large suppliers vying for my business, so I can negotiate them on a yearly basis, and I make them set my rates for a period of at least a minimum of 1 year. So I can bank on what my profit margins will be for at least 1 minimum year at a time.
How accurate are they when you look back?
Well, when we look back at our growth targets, we do a 6-month, a year, 3 year, and 5 year, and our year-on-year growth is always hitting our targets. So and that's just the management of our staff in-house that we do that with. I use I've got 2 accountants, because obviously being limited, you have to have audited accounts. But we have a monthly P&L with a smaller accountancy firm who brings everything to the balance sheet for us, and then I know what my monthly P&L is every single month.
Okay, excellent. Mark?
Very similar in certain aspects to Sean. Because of the situation of the size of the business, I make sure that a lot of our independent suppliers, for one, I negotiate fixed costs for the year. We will negotiate fixed costs for all our waste from 2 suppliers, maybe, depending the areas we're working in. Same with the merchants, we will get fixed costs for the year on all our aggregates. Obviously, that might change ever so slightly now because of the situation, because certain products are being forced up in value, but we would always pass that on to our clients anyway, because there's a clause in our contract for it. So once we fix the costs through the year for all our supply, then obviously that helps us work out where we should be with the profit. But we actually run cost sheets on every single job that we have running. Now we run those weekly, fortnightly, monthly, and at any point we can just click a system on the computer. It's an Excel spread system. We can just click it, and it should, in theory, tell us where we are in cost against materials. So we'll have a budget in for the material costs. It'll tell us where we are in the spend against that, and we do exactly the same with the skilled men's costs or the skilled installers costs. So at any point we know in theory whether we're due to make the estimated profit, or if we're running behind, we can then do crisis management and decide whether actually, if we continue at this rate, what will be the impact on the profit? Would it be cheaper to continue at this rate or actually to chuck another man on from another team and try and claw it back? So at that point, it gives us that ability every month, every quarter to analyse where we are basically throughout the year and see where we should be on estimated profits. And this is something, again, that our business coach brought in. It was something we were sort of doing, but we do it in a much more efficient way now. And it's something that we're about to do electronically, so we can actually do everything electronically from site with tablets from all the teams.
Okay. So last question, and the first part of this question is completely up to you whether you answer it, and the person that's asked the question has stayed there. So in terms of profit margin, have you all got in your own minds, and would you share it, and maybe share it in a band if you don't want to share the individual side of it, on what people should be making as a landscaper or as profit? And then the second thing is, and it's like, what's the golden tip? What's the thing that you should say to people that make sure you get this one particular thing right, and that's going to help you make your profit? So let's start with you then, Tess.
I don't mind saying it. I'm a bit frightened saying it first, but we aim for 30% on our projects. That's our aim, and that's how we work all our figures and how we run our figures. Obviously, we make mistakes on things change. We also run the business fundamentally on a sort of 10.5 month a year basis. So we write off six weeks of the year for sickness, for holiday and stuff like that. So we base our monthly figures on 10.5 months, but we aim for 30%. And I think, you know, as Mark said, if you can tie in what your suppliers are giving to you 12 months, maybe even 18 months in advance, and that really helps you work things out and you don't get very many surprises. And I know probably because that's the last time I'm going to get to speak, I just wanted to say, and I know I'm biased, but I'm just watching some of these questions come in down the side, and I think one of the biggest things for us has been having the support of an association. So like APL, Barley for me, I'm obviously very biased, but and these summits with Pro Landscaper, you know, you're not on your own out there. And if you can have the support of an association or something like that, you can ask them any of these questions that you're asking us now, and there will be people there that can answer them for you. I'd love to know if everybody else feels the same about an association if they're in a member. But 30%, does anyone else agree with me?
Tony, let's go with you then.
Yeah, I wish I was getting 30%. We do actually cost all our overheads into the job and spread it right through. So we go for 15%, and on commercial jobs, we're probably, some of them are even quoted at only 10% if we really want to win them. And we have gone in at 7.5% occasionally, just if we want to sort of break even to get in with a new client. I don't know what other people are using.
Yeah. And original member of Barley, or very early on in the Barley?
Yes, many years ago, I joined Barley when I was a 2-3 man band, and it was the best thing I ever did, because like Tess, I found I wasn't alone. I did quite a lot of training courses with Barley in those days, and I learned a huge amount, and then I was able to do some subcontracting for waterers, and that gave me the confidence to be able to do bigger projects. And actually waterers took me out to Disney, and we did some landscaping over there, so it was a great opportunity. And I learned one thing, and in Disney, anything is possible.
Julian, so association, golden nugget, and profit margin.
Okay, association, yeah, we're Barley members, APL members. I was on the board for the APL. Couldn't speak highly enough of both associations. I think it's critical. We joined APL right at the beginning, recently joined Barley because of our commercial aspect. So I'd say that's just an absolute must, whatever scale or size of your business. That's vital. And also accreditations, and also champion ISO 9001 for helping us to run and set up our business sort of in a quality way. The other question, profit, we aim for 20, usually end up with less than 15. But you know, by putting our staff and using the soft landscaping as the sort of antidote to the grounds maintenance, one gets a lot busier in the winter. That helps us that helps us generate better profits. So that works well for us. And last question was?
Well, there's actually two for you. Someone just asked, would you mind telling what tracking system you use on the mobile phones for your staff? And the other one was just one bit of advice, really.
Yeah, so we use three apps. We use T-Sheets. T-Sheets is a time tracking system that feeds into QuickBooks. So that records all the guys' times and does their timesheets for them. So all that's automated. So T-Sheets that couples up with QuickBooks and they talk to each other. The other thing we use a lot is iAuditor for our reporting. So all our health and safety. So iAuditor we find is a big partner in our business. And that's all automated as well. That works really well.
Perfect. So, Sean?
Yeah, I'm a member of, I'm an MSGD in the SGD, Society of Garden Designers, fully accredited member. I'm also a member of Barley. And we are talking about actually joining, or would like to propose that we join the APL. I'm a great believer in being in the association. Although we're a national businesses, I think we're a very small community, and I joined the SGD quite late, and it wasn't until I actually joined them I realised how much support you can get through being able to speak to other people. Because when I'm a business owner and I'm on my own, and I have been for 27 years running my business. Although recently I've actually just brought my wife in. I never said that she could ever work for me.
Hi, why?
And
sorry, Lisa, if you're listening.
I relented, and she's actually a fantastic asset. She, because of her education background, brought the academy on, and I'm really proud of her for doing so. Golden nugget, I would say, don't dumb your business down. Keep your rates at the right rates to it, and be confident about what you're doing, and come across confident to your clients, so you don't feel worried about charging a higher rate to win a job, because people prefer quality and not shortcuts.
Okay. And profit margin, or do you want to steer clear of that?
No, we're happy. I'm happy to share. We always aim for a minimum, like Tessa at 30%. You have to, I believe, because we work in an outdoor environment. And if you worked in November and December of last year, the two wettest months for 20 years, has a massive impact on the ability for your staff to work effectively. And your profit margins, if you're working on a very low profit margin, like Eddie Stobart, who works off about 1.5 to 2%, you can lose your profit in an instant and be a negative. So I believe you should always keep your profit margins at a reasonable rate to cover any losses that you could potentially get.
Okay, and then Mark?
We look profit-wise, we're probably around about 25%. We don't quite get to 25%, if I'm honest. It depends. Commercially, it is a lot lower, especially if you're doing a lot of work for national house builders, which we tend not to, because everything there is driven by cost, and it's driven by they don't understand the value of what we can offer. So selectively, commercially, we're probably around about 10 to 15%, but we're aiming about 25% with all our high-end domestic. What would I say? Golden nugget, I would say exactly as Sean said. The problem with this industry is there's too many people don't value themselves at what they do. They don't value the skill set that they have, and they're actually worried about standing there and promoting that skill set in the way they charge. And this is something I've said before at talks I've done for you guys at Futurescape and stuff. So I believe that you should stand there confident, as Sean says, and as some of the others have said. And we are a multi-skilled industry, and we have got a lot to offer. And I think we're not overcharging when people think we're charging £30 an hour or whatever it works out to a day. I don't think we are at all. If you then start analysing those costs against what your electrician charges you, or even go and getting your car serviced in a garage, we're actually almost giving our services away for nothing, because we're multi-skilled. So I would say stand confident. Don't worry about what your costs are. I don't even justify my cost to clients. If they want to start asking for breakdowns, I don't give them. That's our cost. That's what it is. If you want the skill set that we're able to offer, it comes at that cost. And that's been proven recently when I mentioned before that a client came here. I refused to price the job. It was far too complicated. There was just no way it could be priced based on what the designer did. And we give him a day rate, and we give him a very, very good day rate. And he snapped my hand off because he came here and saw the ability and the quality of what we were able to offer and just the backup and the service that went with it. So I would say stand confident in everything that you do.
Excellent. Well, that leaves me just to thank you all very much. I really appreciate the time and effort you put in and your openness and honestness. It makes a massive difference. And I think, as Tess said, it does show that there is an industry that everyone is supporting and working together. And I really, really appreciate everyone's effort. And also the people listening out there, thank you for your time and thank you for the people that put the questions on. So next Monday at 4 o'clock, we've got one about marketing and branding your business. Completely different tomorrow. I'm going to be put under the microscope. Lisa and I are being questioned by Richard Gardner from NAG Solutions about us, about our business and how it's been affected and what our plans are and why we've done it. A little bit nervous, but I'm sure we'll be all right. All the information and details on what's going on are on the Pro Landscapers website. So if you need to find anything, please go and do that. And you can log in and you can register for either tomorrow's one at 4 o'clock or next Monday's one. But again, thank you all very much. Really, really appreciate it. And a fantastic reflection on the landscaping industry. Well done. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.